Hey guys, what's up? Itchla coming back to ya with another episode of Car Rides Witchla, and the weather was permitting today, as you would have guessed, because all three Car Rides Witchlas that were slated have in fact released. So just try to make it out of here on time here. Ooh, alright. There we go. Should have went through. Come on. Yeah. We're good. And we're out. Alright guys, it's time for Christmas, one of the most awkward and strangest Christmases I've dealt with. Probably in my whole life. I don't know that there's ever been a Christmas with such, grim conditions, if you will. Like, it's not that anything's necessarily that grim necessarily, but I think you know what I mean. Like, I just made this final decision in a string of decisions that was really questionable, and so here we are, here we are. But at least I finally get the longest break of the year. So it is nice, but there is a lot of treachery ahead, so ultimately not super sure how I'm feeling about things, but it is what it is. You can only do so much, right? You try your best, I guess. You learn as you go through life, and it is what it is. I mean, there's people who do far worse, and I don't know. Not that I should really do that. I mean, the whole comparison to other people, it's always going to get you into trouble, and I always do it because my mind compares, and it just notices things kind of automatically, like in a way where with other people it might be relatively nominal the way that they're able to compare themselves to others. In my case, it's not nominal at all. It's very, very prominent. Like, I can see things much clearer and with much more description. So it's harder for me to not compare myself to others when I can see so clearly the differences between people. When you're observant to that degree, it's difficult because that's all, like, that's just how I see reality. Reality to me, it is very comparative. So, it just, you see it, and it's hard to like unsee things that you see. So there's like advice that it might be good advice for a lot of people, but then for me personally, it's kind of like, I don't know if it really lands because I'm so observant, and that brings a lot of, really, you could say, unnecessary pain into the equation, because if I lived as more of a normal human who just has opinions about things, doesn't really care much about right, wrong, or truth, I'd probably live a pretty happy life. And a lot of my issues with bandwidth and, wow, that's not good. Oh no, never mind. For some reason, it just started a workout. Maybe I hit my watch a certain way or something. But yeah, I'm not entirely sure. But I first I thought it was like a workout that was running for like a super long time. But come to find out, it was only it was only running for like 10 minutes. So it must have just been when I was fooling around in the car and all. So nothing too concerning, nothing crazy. But yeah, I mean, how will this, the problem though with holidays is they're not really a true break for me. I'd want like a real break as in like a break, not, oh, well, now you have a day off, but then you have to spend it with family. See, to me, that's not a break. It's just like a different manifestation of the same thing, kind of. So I don't really know how much sense it makes when you really get down to it, but, you know, it is what it is. It is what it is, so. You try your best with these things, and yeah, I guess you just got to make it out on top, you know? But yeah, it's an interesting time for me. Just reflecting on the past year and trying to figure out stuff, it's all strange. I mean, it is what it is, really. That's always what it is. It's always what I say, right? It is what it is. But I don't know. I mean, I go through life. I'm just going through life. That's all of us do, but obviously I guess I put more thought into things or something. Or so I've come to understand. I put more thought into things. Doesn't really seem too crazy to me, but apparently that's how it is. I don't know. I'm remembering, something I was thinking about today is like how optimistic I was about everything. I was really optimistic about my career and speaking as a job. And a lot of that optimism, I don't really think about it anymore. And maybe that's a good thing because it kind of puts pressure off of me. But at the same time, like I was thinking about that. When this series started, it really was a riding off an explosive wave of energy, an explosive wave of hope that I had finally figured out my strength, what I would like to do. And, I guess I figured by now the channel could have been bigger or things, and it didn't happen. And then there's been so much in my personal life with the people I deal with in my personal life, in addition, and then that kind of pegging me down mentally as well. There's been a lot of changes, like a lot of inability to, function the way I would like to. So, yeah, not really a great situation, to say the least. Not really a great situation, but what can you do? I don't know. Like, it's so hard to see outside of your own perspective, but even with the terrible decisions I've made and things, like, I feel okay. I don't know. Like, even with these recent terrible decisions, well, I don't know that I've really gotten over it yet, but trying to get over it, I guess. Trying to think about it. I'm hoping there isn't traffic. I guess it could be possible, but I'm hoping that there isn't. But yeah, like I noticed, like I really, there was a surge, there was a push, but it's kind of the usual, like people aren't really there for you. They're not very supportive, you know? And it's frustrating. I think it's frustrating. But I don't know that it's anything new, or it's things that, like, humans in general, I think nowadays it's difficult for others to even see each other's visions. I don't know that people particularly value them. Does that make sense? Like, I don't know that many people actually value, like, another person's dreams, because it's so overcrowded and competitive. And then in addition to that, and very importantly, people are selfish and they don't really want you to get ahead necessarily. So that's why I think people, they're just not supportive. Maybe it's just this silly, like, survival mechanism or something, but I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure what else to, like, think about it. But I think that's honestly it. It's like people aren't supportive because people are really lazy. People are really, really lazy, and they're really selfish. And if you're supported, if they support you, it's gonna be harder for them to get ahead, especially due to jealousy and things like that. Everybody, I think, secretly wants control. I think a lot of people like to come off that they're not controlling, but I honestly think everybody to some extent is fairly controlling. It's just some people hide it. I mean, some people genuinely aren't, but I think it's like deeply rooted in our humanity. It's deeply rooted in our humanity to feel that and, like, again, be scared about friends changing or friends leaving, you know? Sure, it's something that comes up. I'm sure it's something that comes up. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people. I would say most. I would say most have subconscious controlling tendencies where, yeah, I mean, you really, in your friend group, I think a lot of people don't really want their friend to be better than them. They'd kind of like to see themselves as being better or having more friends or being cooler. And a lot of this stuff is more prevalent when you're a child, when you're in school, when you're an adolescent. But does it really change? Do we, when we become adults, like, do we attempt to be more mature, or is it kind of masking it? But, like, deep down, I think there's a lot of people who don't show it, but, like, they care a lot about the car they drive or the clothes they wear. And they don't show it, but if they didn't have access to those, if they didn't make as much money, they would be in shambles, you know? So they don't show it, and we like to pretend that we're adults, but I really think deep down there's a lot of these tendencies in how people think. Because you don't know what the subconscious is doing, and I think the subconscious is still tuned for survival. It's kind of like how, you know how, like, a lot of people, they say, oh, I don't care about what other people think. And it makes them feel tough. It makes them feel strong. I don't think that people genuinely feel that way. I think that is sort of this concept that emerges in such a over-socialized, developed society where people misconflate, like, a stranger with people. And you also tend to diminish, like, objective reason because you see how everybody's subjective almost intuitively. But deep down, at our core, we do care about what other people think. And I think most people who've said that do care. I think I've talked about this before, but way at the beginning of Car Rides with Schla. Because even not caring about what other people think, like, you would have to care that people are making an impression of you and you care to not mention that to them, if that makes any sense. Like, if you actually didn't care about what other people think, you would never say that. You would never even have to say that, you know? So I'm just open about it. Like, I'm transparent. I care about what other people think. And I admit it. I don't, like, lie, you know? And I think a lot of people lie about that. I mean, there may be some cases of people who genuinely don't care what other people think, but I think the other issue too is the moral and ethical ramifications of it. I mean, if you don't care about what other people think, it's generally going to lead to worse outcomes, I think. I think generally speaking, if you follow the fray, I don't even know if I'm using that correctly, but it just came to my mouth. Generally speaking, you're going to be better off caring about people, caring about what they think. And I know the way it's usually termed is when people judge you, But even that depends. I mean, there's some judgments that actually make a lot of sense. There's sometimes you're judged socially, and you should be, you know? So if you don't care about what other people think, but you're in a situation where you should be caring about what other people think, you should be seeing what you're doing is wrong, how do we square that? You know? So a lot of it just ends up being a bunch of like over personalized, over individualized nonsense. It's not really anything rooted in correctness or, you know, anything like that, really. You know, it's just, I mean, it's sad, but it is what it is, you know? But I think it's like a good point. Because so many people do care about what other people think. And it's just, but it just creates this like, and I've interacted with people, like they're, I don't know, like they want to talk to you, they want to be your friend, but they want to be the better friend. They don't really like it if you're noticeably, I honestly think this could have happened to me like a lot. There could have been friendships, bonds with people where they just might not have liked it because of how I could speak. You know, it could be like pretty intimidating to people. I'm not really intimidated by others in speech. I mean, I just get intimidated because I care, you know, and people are always, they always like to get so upset with you and then like not explain it and then ignore you. And it's this like very frustrating, complicated pattern that occurs. Because it's like, of course, they can't just talk it out with you. They have to like ignore you for a couple hours or a day or two, you know. I mean, it's crazy because I just didn't realize like the extent of people. And it's weird when it's family. Like you think about like I could have a child and that's the level they could be at. And that's like heartbreaking for me to think about. You know, cuz that happens. Like you have like a caring parent and then their child is just like weird, you know, they're just, and there's no, a lot of times people don't have rationales for what they do. They're so incapable of even explaining anything that they do. Especially nowadays, it's like you're told to be a consumer. You're told to like certain things and you have to work to keep up and keep appearances, you know? It's all very interesting. I just realized I completely forgot to take my beef out of the freezer, so that is going to be hard as a rock tomorrow. That's really going to be... Oh, actually, never mind. It's going to be difficult to do. Yeah, I don't... there's no getting around it. It's going to be tricky. So, yeah, I don't know. Hopefully, I'm just thinking this now. Maybe tomorrow morning I can get all my cheese grating done. That would be a productive morning. We'll see. It's a good goal. It's a good thought, you know. But yeah, I mean, and it's, I think that's very scary that you have people, potentially they have a substantial amount of money, they have a substantial amount of power, influence, but they don't even know why they wear black shoes. I mean, to me, it's like, it's just not right. I mean, there's some people who are rich and they're conscious, but there's other people where they don't know why they're rich. They don't care. They buy expensive things just because they happen to be in that circumstance. Same with how a lot of poor people, I don't even know how much like they think about it, but people generate identity through their class. I don't know how much they really care about right or wrong, you know. I think it's pretty difficult to pinpoint. It's hard to know what people think deep down, you know. But so many times, like, people's intentions, they're so dark. So often, I mean, not always, but it's very often that, you know, I've dealt with people like that where it's just, it's dark, you know. They're not thinking about being kind at all. Like I said, there's people, they're deeply lazy. There's a depth to their laziness and there's a depth to their selfishness. And so they can't be there for you like you would want them to be. And I've mentioned this before. I mean, laziness, you really have to wonder, because like, it's nothing that instinctively or intuitively you would want or think is good. You know, like, who would want to be lazy? Like, that's kind of what I realized, because I have my bouts with laziness. Like, I'm pretty, but like, you think about it, especially when it comes to cleaning my room. But you think about it, and it's like, why nobody wants to be lazy. Like, I feel like people, that's why I'm saying I'm not trying to be angry when I say it, because I understand, like, there's so much more to a person than that. You know, a lot of times somebody's going through something, or, you know, there's some kind of struggle, or, you know, there can be genetic components to it, but a lot of times it's like malnutrition or other things going on that completely just hamper a person's ability to function, you know. It's true. So when I say lazy, I don't want to come across, you know, in that kind of way. I don't want to be like, oh, these lazy people, not, no, like, I understand because I'm one of them, but it's, why would you want to be? I think people joke about it because it's like, I think that's why people like playfully, oh, I'm the laziest person, I love being lazy, like, but it just doesn't. And I mean, this could be another example of some people just not caring, but it's true. Like, why would you want to be lazy? Nobody asks for that. even the people who are and are okay with it, I don't even know if that is necessarily a good thing. It's kind of like coping or adapting to a poor trait. Like, I don't know, that's just how I feel about it. Like, why nobody should want to be lazy. Nobody should want to be weak. Nobody wants these things, and yet humans are, or they tend to be, and there may be, certain environmental variables that make us more or less than we are. That can happen. A lot of it has to do with how you were raised as a child, and I don't know. Like, it's a shame. It's really a shame. But that's what I'm saying. I mean, I don't fault them, but I guess that really is the truth. I mean, to so many people now, short form content, it gives them such a comfort. It gives them such an outlet where it's not constructive, and it eats their time. It eats their time that would have been spent doing emotional processing, trying to contemplate and deal with and process themselves emotionally. And so I keep talking about this. There's like major deficiencies with people. But these are living people who need food, they need water, they need to work. And yet, here we are. Here we are. Again, I don't know, how do we square it? How do we figure these problems out? Because I've said there's really only two options. You either need to start really ramping up welfare programs for people, or there's going to be mass carnage. Because it's like the way we are, it's so severe, Like, you think about how addicted we are to tech. Imagine if the tech wasn't available. Like, so many people, they'd be irritable, they'd be very withdrawn. I mean, some people would really, it would hurt. Like, imagine if everything just stopped working. We're so used to this constant rush of dopamine. And imagine if it all just stopped working. People really, I mean, even when TikTok was going to be banned, like, that whole situation, people's, like, reactions to that. I mean, these things are supreme luxuries. They're not, I mean, we treat them as these things, but we treat them as if they're always going to be there, and that's not necessarily true. A lot of people are on medication, they take things, and there's not necessarily judgment with that. Like, that's fine. That's okay. But the problem is, like, I mean, it's a dependency, and in America, there's so much of a profit incentive with medication, and so it's scary because now, if someone has diabetes, they're dependent on insulin, and if you can't get it, you just die. It's like really crazy to think about that. But I mean, that's not really the main example. It's like just for people who are completely normal. A lot of people take medication or just do drugs to get through. A lot of people have like alcohol as a coping. I mean, even if they're not an outright alcoholic. You have people who smoke weed to relax, to sleep. And then there's evidence that that's not good because it prevents your body from getting proper REM to sleep while on weed. And so, but like the people like need so much, like they need these extreme amounts of, I mean, you even think about the convenience of Bluetooth earbuds, how much different it was when you had the cable and the wire, and you had to like, I mean, the wireless ones, they're so addictive. They're like consuming us in comparison. A remarkable invention, but still, what if Bluetooth stopped working? A lot of us would be very irritated. We'd be extremely like frustrated. And that's the whole problem with this elevation. It's why like I'm realizing this stuff when I'm buying all this stuff. It's raising my elevation. And that's my biggest, I guess, stress about it, is, maintaining that level. And it's like, well, before, you were fine, but then time goes on, and then it's like you need more and you need more, and then there's not really an end, because you're, if you don't buy the stuff, then there's that nagging, that persistent nagging, and then if you do buy it, then there's regret. But a lot of people don't have that. That's something more personal to me. Some people, when they resist buying things, like it does go away. And I guess maybe that happened to me, but it takes a very long time, and then things come back, and they come back in waves, and they hit hard. And for me, it's like a nagging. It's just nagging in my head, like, get this, nagging, like nagging. And a lot of people don't really have that. Most people are victims to others. If an advertisement pops up in front of their face, they like it, they buy it. But it's not really something they want. It's not really a nagging. When if an advertisement's not there, they're, what I'm saying? A lot of my stuff is from my own accord. There's not advertising. It's stuff I seek out. It's stuff I'm aware of. It's nobody's advertising it to me. I know about it. You know what I'm saying? Because my own interest. It's not, nobody just like placed an advertisement in front of me or something like that. I don't know. So it's just such a crazy situation. You know what I mean? It really is. Just a very crazy situation for humanity to navigate. And I feel like I'm the only person navigating a lot of this stuff. I mean, most people, they're not even conscious of it. they're just like, I don't even know, what are they doing with their time? Like a bunch of entertainment, taking it easy, eating food. I mean, the things I buy, at least it's like equipment. It's not just vacations or food. I think we really need a swift moratorium on vacations. We need a swift moratorium on food. People need to learn how to make food. Make food well. I mean, in my case, I'm a carnivore, so ground beef, it satisfies me. I don't really need much else. It's fine. I don't really season it. My seasoning is like cheese, you know? That's my seasoning, salt and cheese. And I'm like very content with that. I mean, I don't know. To me, like more food, it would be stressful. It would too much variety. It's like my mind's already so busy. Like I think in a lot of cases people, they have like empty minds, and so they're intuitively like they need variety. They crave some kind of variety and stimulation because their brain is empty. Their brain is empty. So it's so easy to jump on TikTok because it stimulates the mind in a way that most people's minds can't be stimulated. You know, if that makes sense. Stimulates the mind in that kind of a way. So I don't know, what does it always come back to? I just go, it is what it is. But it's like, is that really it? Like it hurts. It hurts me deeply that there's other people that just roll through life, and then I'm here like tackled with these questions. I don't know that I want to be like them, but I want some kind of credit, you know, some kind of extra stipend, right? Like that's kind of what I want, a stipend. Just a little extra money or something. I wouldn't need too much, but some kind of credit. That's why I'm craving the surveillance utopia. You know? I'm craving it because I feel like that's the only way to get recognized, even though it comes with its own set of moral dilemmas. My hunger and thirst for it is deep, and it's a deep and dark, dry thirst. And I don't even know if I'm gonna live to see it in its completion, but I just don't know what's going on, and it hurts. It hurts that other people are so ignorant and so oblivious, and then I'm aware of all these things, and I'm tackling all these things, but they get the benefit from it. They actually get to live a lower stress life. Well, stress is kind of subjective. I'm sure they get stressed out when, you know, they're out of ice cream at McDonald's, whereas I get stressed out about making sure my mile per gallon is as optimal as possible. So it's like different stresses, but you know, maybe it's all normalized ultimately. But anyways, it's been schla, but now it's time to buy schla. So see you, schla.